Confident, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. And day two of the Realtors live virtual legislative town hall. I'd like to welcome all the candidates that are here. And of course, our legislative committee for 2022. With that said, I'd like to introduce our 2022 president, Ms. Liz Dueñas.
Thank you for all the candidates that showed up today. It's unfortunate that there's only 7 of you. We were hoping to get more of the candidates, and our objective, of course, is we have over 600 Realtor members, and the objective of this session is to hear your point of views on the different issues and where you stand on these issues. It would affect, of course, who we support in the coming general election. Again, thank you for taking the time. And if there's a way you can text your other colleagues to say, hey, it's a shame you didn't show to appear. We sent out the questionnaires. It appears that some people just thought we can just complete the questionnaires and we did not have to appear. So I've got some apologies yesterday, but we sent out, I believe, 4 notices. Peggy and her team was very good about reminding people. So if you're on WhatsApp, please text your colleagues and say, get your butts in here. And again, thank you.
Okay, I'm Monty McDowell. I'm the chairman of the Legislative Committee of the Guam Association of Realtors, and I'm going to give you the ground rules as we get started here. The interviews will be recorded. All candidates will be asked to launch their live video feed. You will be asked to stay on muted mode if not speaking. Your name will be called upon by the host to be able to proceed with your remarks or in answering the question. Please unmute yourself at that time. You will each be provided 2 minutes for your welcome remarks to include the following: full name, brief background, why you are running for the position. You will each be provided no more than 1 minute to answer each question addressed to you. The same question may be asked and answered by select candidates that will be called randomly, while some questions may only be answered by certain candidates based on time limitation. All answers must be germane to the question being asked. Other comments, feedback, clarifications may be entertained by the panelists considering time availability. There's going to be when there's 15 seconds left before your response needs to conclude, the background for Peggy, our executive officer, will go from a green background to a yellow background. And when time is up, it'll go, she's demonstrating it now, it'll go from yellow to red. So just like a traffic light, except we're not using the Guam technique where we keep going through the red light for another 5 minutes. So 15 seconds, green to yellow. When time's up, yellow to red. To ensure that we are able to keep with the time and allow others opportunity to answer, we will mute any candidate unable to stay within the 1 minute time frame. The chairman will determine if a break period is necessary. Candidates will only be addressing the panelists and not each other. While questions were provided to you in advance, the panelists and attendees, members, affiliates, and media are welcome to ask questions. The chairman will determine if such questions will be added and asked during the interview. You will each be provided strictly 1 minute for your closing remark to include the following: full name, why you believe that you are deserving of our vote. Thank you all for attending. It's a real honor to have you here. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the chairman of this subcommittee of the Legislative Committee, the Election Committee, Mr. John Dueñas.
Thank you very much, candidates. We welcome you. We certainly encourage you to be firm in your position regarding the answers to the questions. And we all wish you good luck during your campaign, and hopefully we get to see you again as a legislator. Thank you.
With that, I think Peggy, you'll ask each candidate to do the introductory remarks for themselves.
Thank you very much. Yes. Again, welcome to our day 2. I'd like to first acknowledge our great minds of the Legislative Committee that are here. You have, of course, heard our chairman, Mr. Monty McDowell. You also have heard our vice chair, but who is actually chairing the election subcommittee, Mr. John Duenas. We also have Mr. Christopher Felix, Ms. Joanne Ige, Ms. Fabian Respicio, and of course, Mr. Carl Peterson. We will start with a 2-minute introduction, beginning with Ms. Bistra Mendiola.
Half a day. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. I'll be very brief because obviously I have trouble speaking today. I'm Bistra Mendiola, number 13 on the Republican ballot. I am a small business owner. I'm a mom, wife, and an immigrant. And just like everyone else here on island, for the last 23 years, I've experienced all the ups and downs of working paycheck to paycheck, going to work and struggling to bring enough money to sustain a small family of 4. Thankfully, thank God, we were able to overcome this hurdle when we opened our first business and we expanded with 0 debt. So that success story I want to share with everyone out there, because it's very important to encourage our young generation, particularly, that it's enough. It's one thing to rely on the government for help, but it's a whole different story when it can actually do the work, be successful, and inspire a whole nother generation of successful young people. So that's why I'm running for senator, because I want to inspire everyone out there that believes in hard work and fruits of their labor. Please excuse me. I will continue. If you really want to know more about me, I highly encourage you to visit my website, bistraforguam.com, or my Facebook pages, just to familiarize yourself with my platform in depth, because obviously I cannot talk more about it right now. So please excuse me again. And that would conclude my introduction.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bistra Mendiola. I will go next to Ms. Sam Mabini Young.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to present. My name is Sam Mabini, or Shirley, more known as Sam Mabini Young, and I'm number 11 on the Republican side of the ballot. I have both private and public sector background. Many people don't know about my private sector background. That includes banking, working for an engineering firm while I was in Minnesota. Actually, my first government job was actually working in the state of Minnesota for Governor Jesse Ventura as his commissioner for Pacific Islanders. Since I've been back here in Guam, I've been really focused on what I'm very passionate about, and that has always been about workforce development. So other than doing my own private contract work, I've been very active in the community, helping our teachers, helping our students, helping our families better prepare their youth or adults for potential career opportunities so that they can improve their way of life. As a senator, I'd like to get back into the legislature to work collaboratively with other senators on both sides of the aisle to, number one, help continue to prepare our workforce. That means helping our businesses better partner with our schools and agencies to prepare our young and our workforce. I'd also like to focus on the smarter and smaller government, and that means having a more efficient and accountable agencies. And that also includes adopting part-time legislature aspects. We have about 10 states in the nation that are full-time, about 14 that are part-time, and about 26 that are hybrid. So we should look at ways to improve the efficiency of that particular entity. And then last but not least, working together with our community to address 2 critical issues. Obviously, one that's very close to everybody's heart here is about affordable living, affordable homes, and then third, about a more aggressive drug enforcement campaign in the 2 years that I'll be serving. So I'd like to work with our business community and our public sector to continue addressing these issues and working together. Again, I'm number 11, the Republican side of the ballot, Sam Mabini Young. Sidus Masi.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sam Mabini Young, and I'll go next to Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero. May I ask you to please unmute yourself?
Unmute.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Leon Guerrero, also Joaquin Leon Guerrero. And for the past 15 years, I have been a community advocate representing the people of Guam before administrations, legislatures, boards, and commissions, representing the people. Over the past 15 years, I have testified hundreds of times. I've submitted position papers through the media on a wide variety of subjects, and you can find out just about anything at my Guam Citizens for Public Accountability Facebook page. And I've probably got over 100 videos on public issues I have published on my YouTube page, Ken Leon Guerrero on YouTube. So my positions on many things are well known. I'm currently running the voter initiative program that has 4 initiatives to help reform government and make government more accountable to the people. I have probably been in court against the government more than any other person for office right now, as I try to use the court systems to help improve. So I've obviously been around a long time. I've been involved in public policy for a long time. And my goal in running is to take the level of activity I have been doing as a community advocate and put that on the floor of the legislature, making sure the public's concerns are fairly represented in any legislation being introduced and passed. Number 14, by the way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero. I will go next to our Senator Tallow Tidigui.
Hafa Peggy, and thank you to the Guam Realtor for this opportunity, by the way, if I didn't get a chance later on or forget to thank you for being always active in our community, especially for things like this. So Hafa, I'm Tallow Tidigui. I'm originally from the beautiful village of Inalahan. I'm a Southern woman at heart, but now I currently live in the beautiful village of Tamuning. I was a former director of the Women's Bureau, deputy general manager of the Guam Visitors Bureau. I've been a small business owner of 2 businesses. I worked mostly in the private sector most of my life. I'm currently your senator in the 36th Guam legislature, and I remain focused on improving healthcare services, public safety, and to help our economy as well. I'm running for re-election to serve in the 37th Guam legislature, not only because I want to continue the work that I've started, but I think the people of Guam want someone who is not afraid to call out those who have lost the people's trust and to demand for transparency and accountability. I believe I've proven to be that person, someone the people of Guam can count on, especially when you call my office. I'm always answering my phone and always returning emails that is sent to me. So I humbly ask for your support, the GAR support, as well as the public who's watching this video, to allow me to continue this important work for you and your families. Sijus Masi.
Thank you very much, Senator Tidigui. I'll go next to Ms. Michelle Titano.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much, Peggy. I hope you guys can hear me. I want to say good morning again, and thank you again to GAR leadership for holding this forum, this town hall today, so you can hear us, know about us. I am Michelle Hope Titano, and I'm from the village of Asin, and I'm a daughter of a fisherman who was in the military. My parents were in the military, and so I grew up knowing about the military and being disciplined. I'm also the former chairperson of the Guam Parole Board, and I also serve in many capacities in the government. One was protocol officer to the governor Governor Eddie Calvo. I served as the assistant to the president of Guam Housing Corporation. And so there's a variety of other government positions I've had. And I've also am a former business owner as well in the States. I own 12 stores, small stores in 8 of the United States. And Dad brought me back home to, number one, take care of my parents. I took care of them. At the same time, I worked in marketing, media and marketing, as well as managed small businesses. And in the community, I've always been a part of the community. I sometimes do work that a lot of people don't know about, and it's hard to do. I get calls. I'm also a victim advocate trained. And so I get calls from people who need victim advocacy. So I make sure that the women, if they're in crisis situation, I make sure that they're safe. I sometimes have to take them elsewhere to get them safe. And I really believe that education is key to strengthening our families, our economy, and public safety. I'm Michelle Holt Taitano, number 2 on the Republican ballot, and please, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Michelle Taitano. Mr. Vincent Borja is next.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Mr. Vince Borja. I'm number 3 on the Republican side of the ballot. I'm born and raised on Guam. I'm a product of the public school system. I'm also a graduate from the University of Guam. I hold 2 master's degree in business and 1 in leadership. I'm currently a doctorate student. I'm a small business owner. I'm an Army veteran. I was a business professor at the University of Guam. I taught career education in the public school and in the private school. I'm here today because, like many of us, I call Guam home. We want our kids to call Guam home. I decided to run. One, I'm like most of my colleagues, we are not satisfied with the direction where Guam is going. Being in the military and living stateside for a little bit and having to deal with the government was never as complicated as it is here on Guam. Whether it be the cost of living for food, the cost to build, to buy a home, the cost of gas. I definitely believe that we can do better in helping our community, helping our businesses, and in turn that helps our families. And so I'm here to ask for your support and to share my ideas and how we can take Guam in another direction that people can, and that can entice people to come back home. We've lost a lot of family members and close friends that have moved stateside for better opportunity and for cheaper cost of living. And I think that, or I know that we can do better to bring them home and to pave a Guam that will create opportunity and a place where our children especially can call home, and it's not trying to work 2 to 3 jobs so that they can continue to live on Guam and contribute. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next one is Ms. Mana Silva Tyron.
Good day and good morning. Thank you for having us. My name is Marianne Mana Silva Tyron. I'm number 12 on the ballot. And thanks for having us. Speaking with the Realtors Association is important because one of my passions has always been economic development. As you may know, I've worked as the Deputy Administrator of the Guam Economic Development Authority. I was also a senator in the 31st Guam Legislature, and I was part of a lot of programs that look to entice business investments and business opportunities on Guam. And so if I'm given the opportunity to serve in the 37th Guam Legislature, I certainly want to help grow more opportunities for Guam and absolutely help our local businesses. One of the things that I really wanted to focus on, and I did focus on while at the legislature and at GITA, was easing up some of the business processes of getting a business license. Those are huge impediments when we're inviting investors into Guam. In particular, I mean, there's a lot of attention being paid to real estate and some of the laws and restrictions that deal with the real estate on Guam. We hear stories of business or property owners who own this huge piece of property that aren't able to develop on it adequately and are really stuck with a chunk of land that that can't do anything or benefit them in any way, shape, or form. So those are some of the key things that I would like to address. And I know you're asking us questions today, but I hope to also learn a lot from you and how, as a senator, I can better support and enable the real estate industry. So thank you. I'm Mana Silva Tyron, number 12 on the Republican side.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tyrone. I'll go next to Mr. Tom Fisher.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Thomas Fisher. I'm number 9 on the Republican side of the ballot. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to all of you. I have been practicing law on Guam for about 30 years. I think many people here might know that. I want to tell you why I'm running for the legislature. And I think I will begin with a real quick observation. You know, listening to Mana and Sam and Tello and all the rest of them, one of the things that strikes me is all these people in one fashion or another are business people. I think that that is important because all of the people here, I believe, know what it means to make payroll, you know, once a month or twice a month. And they also know what it means to take care of overhead. So this is a host of people, I think, that will serve Guam and will serve Guam well and will serve Guam's business community. What do I want to do in the legislature? I think when I leave, if I'm elected to Guam legislature, I do not believe in making it a career. I'm 62 years old. That's not even within the realm of possibilities, but I don't think the legislature is a good place for anyone to park themselves and continually remain in that seat. You know, if the legislature is representative of the people, it needs to remain dynamic. When I leave the Guam legislature, assuming I do get elected, I hope that the business privilege tax will be rolled back or substituted, or if it's not, then sunsetted and actually have a sunset provision which is enforced. You know, if the legislature is going to raise tax on people, they need to stand up and say, look, I'm taking money out of your pocket and it's for this reason. And if the people don't like it, then fire us later on. I am not a proponent of, and this is kind of dovetail into it, I am not a proponent of tax increases for the sake of making a tax increase. You know, just like you asked that question about that tax levy on property over $100 million. You know, that levy just came in because the Guam legislature was engaged in a cash grab. They needed the money to substitute to fund the GEFF. It wouldn't have been necessary if, in my opinion, if we had been conducting oversight over the way that we are spending money. Again, if I'm elected, when I leave the Guam legislature, I'd like to look back and say, well, okay, we took care of the BPT and we have instituted a culture in the legislature of vigorous oversight of the executive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Chris Dueñas.
Have a day and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Chris Dueñas and some of you may know me, some of you may not. But I wanted to start out on a personal level. I am married to the beautiful Angelica Dueñas, my wife. Together we are parents to 4 children and we love Guam. Many of you may not know, but the first 18 years of my life were spent in the private sector. I'm a small business owner and still remain as a small business owner. But after leaving to go work in government service, my first opportunity was to be a director of youth affairs. There I helped with a team to rebuild, individuals and young people's lives who were in trouble. It was a very rewarding experience and we did a lot of things. Moving from there, I was the director of land management, where many of you might probably know I was in charge of for only a year and a half, and we modernized completely the records division to ensure that real estate companies and individuals had a great opportunity to realize the opportunity to do research on property. It made things more efficient and got things done better. And then I left the government as the president of the Guam Housing Corporation, where we continue to enhance programs to help first-time homeowners, home buyers, improve rental properties and try to ensure that we could do everything we could to issue loans to people with credit that wasn't so great, but giving them the opportunity. I now once again had returned to the private sector for a couple of years, but I ran a couple of years ago in 2020 because I could not tolerate the way that the legislature in the 35th was basically giving our governor full powers to be able to lord over this emergency and really do a lot of damage to our community. So many of my colleagues have helped me in the 36th Guam legislature to try to change that climate and try to ensure that your legislature is a proper check and balance on business, in government, in anything we do on Guam. We cannot function properly if there is only a singular power. I've concentrated to make sure that we take that away and we returned to a government that is about checks and balances. I'll continue that going forward. And my other ideas I will share with you as we go through the forum, as I have also answered your questionnaire. And I think you will have found my answers to be very forthright. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I will go next to Mr. Ian Dale Catling.
Half a day. My name is Ian Dale Catling, and I am number 5 on the Republican side of the 37th Guam legislature, hopefully in the future. My background is in education. I am a former DOE educator. I am also a former DPR employee. I was a historic preservation specialist. If anybody has any questions on permitting, please feel free to ask. I know it can be a difficult thing to navigate here on island, especially with the difficulty that historic preservation places on upcoming build-up projects. I am running this term for a couple of reasons. One is to account for educational integrity. I need to make sure that my students, when they are in school, can operate at the level that they need to be operating at. I taught high school. I get a lot of high school students that were operating on middle school or below level. How did they get to me? I need to be able to figure out how to make sure that the educational integrity is there. If you're a senior in high school, you should be operating at the 11th grade level. Right? You graduate high school, you should be operating at the 12th grade level. You should not be operating at the 5th grade or the 6th grade or the 7th grade level, which is what's happening right now. In terms of my experience at Department of Parks and Recs, I am a historian, and it's one of my degrees. If you ever want to know what's been going on with the government, all you have to do is read the audits. The audits are the most fascinating and honest way to do an assessment as to the agencies that's going on. And so I did that when I got detailed to Parks and Recreation, and this is what I found. There is no continuity with our government. How can we win? How can we win when there's no continual flow of the government? I will propose that we put at least Parks and Recs under conservatorship, just like how they do in New York, how they did with the Grand Central Park. They put it under conservatorship. The issue is money.
Thank you, sir.
Right? So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but certainly not the least, Mr. Jesse Lujan. Can we have your video on, sir? I have Mr. Jesse Lujan. Okay, perhaps we can give him another opportunity later. If I could kindly ask our candidates to keep their video on for the next segment, which is the question and answer. It would be wonderful to keep everybody, videos on for interaction. With that said,
can you hear me?
Okay, Mr. Jesse Lujan.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
No, we cannot see you, but we can
But
hear you, sir.
You can hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm having problems with my video here. I'm sorry about that. Am I good? Am I good to go?
We can go ahead. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Okay, my name is Jesse Anderson Lujan. I'm number 7 on the Republican ballot. Yes, I'm married to Marianne Suyao Lujan. She's a vice mayor in Gimbao, Iloilo in the Philippines. We have a 10-year-old daughter. I have 2 other kids, Ryan, 37, and Jessica, 32. I decided to run again because I'm very concerned with, of course, the current state of our tourism industry and the government's approach to helping rebuild it. the level of crime and fear of crime in our community with the crystal meth plague, just ravaging our island. Actions, of course, need to be taken immediately. Inflation again has and continue to dramatically eat away at books. Many of our families are struggling just to get by, getting by the skin of their teeth. I think elected leaders of our island can do more and must act, of course, with urgency to solve many of the problems facing, of course, each and every one of us here on our island. I am, and we are very grateful for the billions of dollars that the federal emergency funding has provided to our island and our people, and that we have received. And realize that, of course, without it, we would be in a world of hurt. However, I don't think anyone in elected leadership should be patting themselves in the back too much for making sure that the federal funds get or have gotten into the intended recipients. Instead of celebrating as some incredible feat of management had taken place, we should breathe instead a sigh of relief and recognize that we must do more to address the critical challenges that we are facing here on our island. This election season, I think we should be more worried and focus on urgently improving our tourism industry, increasing visitor arrivals above what is currently forecast. So when we run out of emergency federal funds, we have a tourism industry that can support all the local businesses and employees that have been holding on by the skin of their teeth, again, just to get by. So if elected to the 37th Guam legislature, I will do all that I can, of course, and act with urgency to get our government to respond to the many, many challenges facing our island. And again, whoever is governor and lieutenant governor in the 37th Guam legislature will be facing that, and a good hard look needs to be taken again at this budget that was just passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We will start with our Q&A at this time, and would like to call in Ms. Fabian Respicio to ask the first question regarding the real estate tax rate.
Thank you, Peggy. Our first question is real estate industry related. An increase in real estate tax rate for properties with improvement valued at 1 million or more. Public Law 35-1 was signed into law by the governor on March 2nd, 2019 to correct an error in the previous law created by the 34th legislature to make clear that the law imposes an additional 100% tax levy on Guam real property with property improvements valued at 1 million or more. This additional tax levy has created a severe financial burden to a certain class of property owners, and most especially to residential and commercial tenants whose rental spaces happen to be in buildings valued at 1 million or more. Being that the additional cost of the tax levy will most surely be passed on to the tenants. This tax levy places the financial burden on the backs of middle and low income wage earners and owners of small businesses. Do you support the repeal of this law? And please explain your choice.
Thank you very much. I will go to our Senator Tello Tadegui for the first one to answer that.
Thank you, and Hafaday Fabrine, it's always good to see you. Thank you for the question. Yes, I do support it. I think increasing taxes, especially at a time when families have little to no option to rent because buying a home seems further out of anyone's reach that it is right now. Repealing the tax increase approved by the 34th Guam legislature. Repealing it will help, apartment and commercial businesses grow and expand their operations, which means more and hopefully better paying jobs for our families. So yes, I do support it.
Thank you very much, Senator Tadegui. I'm going to ask Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero for the same question, please.
I definitely support rolling it back. In fact, I went to court against the increase in the BPT, the 1 million or more in the fuel tax, because I wanted to test the notwithstanding clause, because all three of those laws violated Public Law 24222, which requires that any increase in tax or bond issuance go before the general public and go into a referendum in a general election. I wanted to test that because ever since that law was passed, I think it was like 96, 98, every legislature since then has enacted increases in taxes and fees and issued bonds. And rather than repeal the law because they don't want to appear anti-taxpayer, they always had that notwithstanding. So what is the point in having a law if they're going to violate it themselves? So yes, I would make rolling those laws back a priority.
Thank you very much, sir. That's Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero. I will go next to Mr. Vincent Borja.
Hi, yeah, definitely, I support the bill to repeal that. I don't, I think with taxing period, I always think it's, as long as we pay our fair share, it shouldn't matter how much money you make, or just because you make more money, that we tax, we add an additional tax. So definitely support, repealing that law. The previous speakers pretty much covered a lot of the points that I would have shared, so I don't want to sound repetitive, but I definitely would support the repeal of that tax.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent Borja. We'll ask Ms. Michelle Titano.
Yes, Hafaday, I would support the repeal. And then I also believe that it warrants a little bit more research and some dialogue again on all fronts with those concerned parties. Thereafter, I could see perhaps at least an adjustment of the percentage of tax levies on Guam real estate property, especially valued at $1 million or more, and also consider other options in lieu of or provide alternative to the levies. But yes, I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Michelle Titano. Second question will be asked by Mr. John Duenas.
Thank you, Peggy. The second question involves improving the building permit process. Property owners seeking to construct improvements on their property, as well as contractors engaged to construct such improvements, are confronted by a building permit application and occupancy permit process that is rife with unreasonable and unresponsive review periods, potentially corrupt communication with individual agency review personnel, unreasonable, inconsistent, and shifting permit requirements and standards of certain review agencies, and a frustratingly linear review process. What will you do to improve and expedite the building permit application and the occupancy permit issuance process?
Thank you, Mr. John Duenas. I'd like to ask Senator Chris Duenas.
Yes, and thanks, John. It's really kind of puzzling to me because I know that we've made some attempts during this legislature, but certainly it hasn't been enough. I think this is an all hands on deck, situation whereby the 37th Guam legislature must hit the ground running. And one thing other senators and other forums and candidates have been talking about is the oversight and the lack of putting attention on things like this matter. As you can see in how I answered the questionnaire, we have all the components in place. We have those who should know what they're doing, and we have all of the relative agencies at the one-stop center. I think once again, and that's why I constantly use this in my campaign focus as the term describing what needs to be done is, we need to put the spotlight on this and focus on it and ensure that this one-stop becomes a true one-stop once and for all. So absolutely, the legislature needs to direct the spotlight on this and get it done in a manner that basically has accountability and transparency and that capability of seeing it through, in place. The components are there. The problem is the focus and the dedication at Public Works and the.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. The next person to answer the question would be Mr. Thomas Fisher.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Duenas. Thank you for the question. Just because you've been elected a senator does not mean you have expertise in all areas. Your question specifically was, with this permitting process that is difficult, arcane, hard to navigate, what would I do about it? What I would do about it is go to you, Mr. Duenas, and your compatriots and ask you, what are the problems? How can they be fixed? And then through a discussion with the people who are actually on the ground running with this, which is the realtors, come together. And I think I have to join, Chris on that. It's an all hands on deck type thing. We have to come together and figure out what this industry needs to make itself grow and to help the people of Guam. It's a vital industry. So I would come back to the experts on this, which are the realtors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I'd like to ask Ms. Mana Tyron, please.
Thank you for the question. In fact, this is something that I did work on and work with business individuals while I was at the Economic Development Authority. And it was a huge impediment, the business licensing process. We wanted to restore that one-stop concept into that operation. And there are personnel that are highly professional there. Perhaps additional money and resources can be applied to that to get some dedicated staff to sit there, see what some of the problem and the holdup in the business licensing operation and building permitting operation is that there's not consistent staff assigned to that operation. So I think we can work on that to improve it, but it's not an impossible feat. When we were looking at it, there are places that have business licenses and building permits turned around in 3 days. So if that's something that we could look at and possibly modeling our operation similar to that and make it happen, because if we're inviting investors to come here and then we just make it impossible for them to do business or build up on their properties, it's not even, what's the point in inviting them to do business here?
Thank you very much. The next question will be asked by Ms. Joanne Ige. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Fabian Rizvicio. My apologies.
There you go. Thank you, Peggy. The next question is on housing shortage. Guam is experiencing a severe housing shortage due to a variety of reasons. These include the rising cost of construction labor and materials, rising mortgage and construction loan interest rates, unresponsive, stifling, and potentially corrupt building permit application process, increasing restrictive environmental regulations, and conditions placed on local housing development by competing and more lucrative military construction contracts and H-2 labor visa restrictions. What legislative action will you pursue with commitment and purpose to address or resolve Guam's severe housing shortage?
Thank you very much for that question, Ms. Vistra Mediola.
The housing shortage is something that is an issue that needs to be addressed immediately. However, there are certain things we can and cannot do. On legislative level, I do believe that more attention needs to be spent on the initial burdens when we are talking about a new construction. And we all know the horror stories from folks who are trying to build on unimproved lot, the horror story of connecting your power to sewer, the restrictions that are out there. Just recently saw an interview with Liz and Gina on KOAM, where they basically just described one of those impediments where one lot is approved for connection, then right next to it, the other one is not, and there is absolutely no logic. So those inconsistencies in the code must be addressed. And that is something that I propose that your organization, together with the Guam Construction Association and the legislature, sit together in a roundtable, if you will, and you put all of your knowledge out there, you bring in all your expertise and show the next legislature what.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bistra Mendiola. I'd like to ask Mr. Jesse Lujan.
You're
Unmute,
muted.
Jesse.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. You're muted again.
Okay, let me try again. Am I good? Okay, thank you. There are multiple variables that have collided to create our housing shortage and crisis here on our island. The government can provide definitely additional direct subsidy programs as a short-term solution for our low and medium income families that are being severely squeezed by the tightening inventory of the increased prices through no fault of their own. However, the mid-term and long-term solutions are the variety of policies that are allowed for more low and medium income housing and apartments to be built, a combination of tax incentives and the government building or providing infrastructure improvements, land and building new housing and developments for low income, middle income families here in Guam. The government of Guam must make it easier for lower and middle to even higher middle income families to finance and purchase homes, as well as make it easier to build single family homes. Immediate action, of course, must be taken and is necessary. The current dynamic is likely to get worse quicker without immediate government action. With respect,
Mr. Jesse Lujan, I thank you very much. But we need to move on to our next candidate, Ms. Sam Mabini Young.
I just want to remind everyone, you're given 2 minutes, and if you look
1
at
minute.
Peggy's screen, or 1 minute for your response, and her screen will go to yellow and then red, and then we will mute you at that point. So I apologize, but the instructions were given on the front end, and just another reminder. Thank you.
Thank you. I've been researching this for over 2 years now, and great information regarding making room for changing America really applies to Guam. We know that our use codes have been really based on a historical way of how we use our land and properties. What we really need to do is have our codes focus more on form-based or place-based. We know that our residents are not what we had 20, 30 years ago. We have singles, we have couples, we have elderly, we have single parents and so forth. And we know that many are looking now at different options like co-housing, home sharing, secondary homes, or extensions. And so we need to have our policies to be able to allow landlords or potential landlords to have those as options, creating maybe duplex, triplex, fourplex, or whatnot. So we do need to create and expand our menu. Second thing that we need to do as legislators is to hold our directors accountable. Hire only those that are qualified to be able to have the vision to make the changes and to make the to have an operations where we have a lot more efficiency when it comes to permitting for agencies that directly affect our housing conditions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sam Mabini Young, and I'd like to ask Senator Chris Dueñas.
There's a lot of dynamics that are going on here, and I know that some of it comes down to regulatory. Some of it comes down to what are we doing with programs that we currently have. First of all, with the Guam Housing Corporation, I think we need to put in some additional investment there. I think that there are opportunities to expand and continue to expand the first-time homeowners opportunities for closing costs and other costs associated. I think there's other things that we can do. First of all, we have this Chamorro Land Trust program, yet we've consistently not moved forward. And now we have a dedicated funding source through what has recently passed in terms of, costs associated with these submarine cables coming into Guam in order to be able to provide opportunities for economic expansion. Now that we have a dedicated funding source, let's commit to proper subdivisions and proper expansion of Chamorro Land Trust so we can ease the inventory of housing so that those who are eligible for Chamorro Land Trust can start building. That will create more opportunities and more expansion in the regular market through inventory. That's one of the things that we can do quickly in order to be able to get things moving for affordable housing.
Thank you, Senator. Next question will be asked by Mr. Monty McDowell.
Thanks, Peggy. This one has to do with business privilege tax. Repeal of business privilege tax rate increase. In March 2018, Public Law 3487 increased the business privilege tax rate from 4% to 5%. The law stated that the increase was temporary and was necessary to combat the loss of revenue caused by federal tax cut, but with no sunset date to the increase specified. The BPT tax increase has resulted in significant increases in construction labor and material and generally adversely affects the entire business environment in Guam. Despite many proposals to repeal the increase considered by subsequent legislators, private sector business effectively paralyzed by COVID-19 operation restrictions and a change in president's political party, the rate remains at 5%. Do you support the repeal of the BPT rate increase and return the rate to 4%? Please explain.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Ian Catling.
Yes, I do support the repeal of the BPT. As I stated before, in the Women's Chamber of Congress, this has happened in various occasions in various locations. Case in point in Chicago, where they increased the taxation on the TV and film industry. Did they make more money? No. They lost money because the TV and film industry left Chicago, right? They moved over to Canada, and that's where it resides right now. That would happen here if we're not listening to our community members. They're not saying this because they want to make more money. They're saying this because they want to survive these trying times. So yes, I'm all in support for the rolling back of the BPT.
Thank you very much. We have Mr. Vincent Borja next to answer the question. Seems that we lost him. We will go next to Senator Tydegly.
Thank you, Peggy, and thank you for that question, Monty. You know, I was part of the legislature that exempted the 2% BPT for small businesses who make up about 90% of our businesses on Guam. So I'm definitely in support of rolling back the BPT. I think we've shown with the surplus in revenue that we can afford to roll back the BPT. You know, I will continue to support efforts to reduce cost of government as well, including the rollback, and to fight against policies that spend revenues before they're even realized. I also do everything I can to remind decision makers of our duty to set aside funds for emergency situations and to live within our means, particularly as Guam remains in an artificial economy supported by billions of dollars in federal aid. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We will move on next to Ms. Mana Tyron.
Yes, the simple answer, yes, I support rolling back the BPT to 4%. I like Senator Tello had said, only 90% of the small businesses are paying are up to 3% of the BPT. So I mean, this isn't entirely the solution in saving money, because not all the businesses are pay the BPT. There's a lot that are exempt, especially under the Dave Santos Act. There's definitely a need to look at resources for the government. And so that's where I say we need to continue to look at developing industries and opportunities there. But the question that you're asking is this, if I support the rollback of the BPT, I absolutely support it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tyron. Next question will be asked by Mr. John Duenas.
Thank you, Peggy. The next question involves general government, and the question surrounds the issue of full-time or part-time legislature. The Guam legislature over the past many decades has been a full-time legislature. Some candidates aspire to a senatorial position as a career goal that pursues and emphasizes popularity rather than effectuating a smaller and more efficient and cost-effective government. Will you support the creation, introduction, and passage of a bill to change the operation of the Guam legislature from full-time to part-time? Please explain your choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero, please.
Oh, I'm definitely on record as supporting a part-time legislature. I even started a voter initiative process to reduce the legislature to part-time status. However, the legal counsel for the Guam Election Commission has determined in and of his own authority that having a citizen introduce a petition to reduce the legislature to part-time status is inorganic, despite not being able to point anywhere in the Organic Act where citizens cannot introduce a petition to reduce the legislature. So I'm definitely in favor of a part-time legislature because a part-time legislature expands the pool of candidates willing to run for the legislature. Many of the best and brightest in our community would be willing to serve, but they can't take 2 years away from their careers or businesses. And as we saw in the first 25 years of our territory, we had many of our best and brightest business leaders working in part-time legislatures leading up to, and some of the best laws that we survive under today came out of those part-time legislatures. So yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll go next to Miss Michelle Titano.
Yes, thank you. I do support this part-time legislature. It's been long overdue, and I think we just need to do it already. I think the general consensus in our community, especially the business community, agrees to this as well. So yes, part-time legislature, I support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I will ask the same question to Mr. Thomas Fisher.
Hi, thank you for the question. Of the questions I think that you folks have posed to us, this is one of the more difficult questions. On its face, it seems like the response would be pretty easy. I do support the Guam, part-time Guam legislature with some reservations though. If we're going to part-time the legislature, then I would insist that the salaries for the senators drop in accordance with that, essentially a reduced workload. The follow-on consequences of that is where things get a little bit tricky, because you don't want, look at me, I'm 62 years old, 30 years practicing law. You know, I'm in a fairly comfortable position and I can afford to become a legislator. There are many people, best and the brightest, who cannot afford it. So if we go to a Guam legislature, which will require a lower salary for the senators, are we now excluding a whole group of people who can't afford to opt in for this sort of public service? So it's not an easy question. I have to come down on the side of supporting it. I've always thought less government is better, but I want to make sure we don't invite an unintended consequence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question will be asked by Miss Joanne Egan.
For the candidates. It's legislative priorities. Whether you are an incumbent, a former legislator, or a first-time candidate for senator in the 37 Guam legislature, what are the top 2 legislative priorities you will pursue if elected? Please respond to this question under 2 conditions. Number 1, if you are a majority, and number 2, if you are in the minority. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I'd like to direct that to Senator Titagli.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanne, for the question. The first thing I think I would do, well, continue to do what I've been working on is to reduce the cost of government and strengthen our finances by demanding transparency and accountability, and ensuring the proper and regular legislative oversights on the use of local funds and federal pandemic financial assistance is also exposed. As you know, I've been working every month. I look at the ARP and, you know, demand that the governor tell us what they've been spending this money on. Unfortunately, it took us to incorporate into the budget bill this budget bill, those itemized in detail. The second is develop an elderly housing accommodations on management. As you know, by the 2034, we'll have more people over the age of 65 than we will have children. So working on a nursing care community by non-government entities is something I've been working on for housing. This is an area that housing needs to be addressed for Manamco. So actually, I just passed legislation that did that. So I'm moving on now to more affordable housing and have another bill.
Thank you very much, Senator Titlegy. I'd like to also ask the same question to Mr. Vincent Borja.
Hi, thank you for that question. I think, majority or minority, we definitely need to look at strengthening our economy. I think when you look at a lot of the social issues in our community, when we strengthen the economy, it helps us address poverty, which leads to crime and then turns to drugs. So definitely look at addressing that. And then next we look at addressing the cost of living. Again, you build a strong economy, it assists with addressing the cost of living. We look at housing and how, whether or not, which again, obviously is driven by our economy. And so definitely looking at, again, our economy and how that, contributes to addressing a lot of the social issues in our community. But definitely a priority for me when it comes to some of the issues we need to address in our community.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent Borja. Ms. Bishra Mendiola, please.
Hi, that's a great question because I've been actually compiling a set of bills that were introduced within the last 2 years of this current legislature. And I just opened up my nice little list and here we go. Seller disclosure. There was a proposal. It's bill number 29-36. We need more of that. We have to reintroduce it. Then another one that actually affects the real estate community. The appurtenant accessory dwelling units bill also proposed, it went nowhere. And we all know that we live in multi-generational homes when we can build a structure right next to mom and dad's original home where we can house our elderly parents or the kids. Bills like that are great bills, they're out there, just never progressed and advanced. I always like to say I don't need to reinvent the wheel. I can just take it from there and then work with your community and any other key stakeholder in the business community to improve the current bills, amend and introduce new laws.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Mendiola. Next question will be asked by our president, Ms. Liz Dueñas.
Thank you, Peggy. Repeal of useless or problematic laws. Are there current laws that you believe are not useful or problematic that should be repealed? If yes, you can list the top 2 laws that you believe should be repealed. Please explain.
Thank you very much for that question. And we will direct that to Mr. Jesse Lujan. Mr. Jesse Lujan. Please
You're muted,
unmute
Jesse.
yourself. Please unmute yourself, sir.
Having problem. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there are many statutes, especially in respect to family law, that must be repealed or updated since many of the cases are not enforced. The other thing, and I'll go back just real quick in regards to zoning laws, we've got, majority of our zoning out here is agricultural, and there's very limited agricultural use in our land here. There should be a lot more that can be done in regards to multiple dwellings in agricultural subdivisions. We don't have a big call for agricultural use for land, but we do have a shortage for family dwellings. So my priority going in there is looking at again these zoning laws and permitting laws that are very again very business unfriendly for our people of Guam and businesses, enticing companies to do business here in Guam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Khan. And same question for Mr. Ian Catling, please.
Hello. Yes. So just going through this election process, I got two off the bat. Right. So I was a specialist I before I had ran for office. So that means I had to resign from my job. Mini Hatchat. Why does that apply to me? I am the lowest of the low, the boss of nobody, but I have to resign from my job in order to run for this office, right? So that eliminates pretty much anybody who is starting off in the government from actually trying to run for Senate. The other one is another law that has to apply to ex-employees of the government. Because I resigned from my job to run for office, now I can't do what I was doing when I was actually working in the government. So therefore, I can't work in historic preservation for an entire year. We just lost an archaeologist to Hawaii because of that same law. It took us 10 years to get one. She stopped working at the government, couldn't work on private, had to leave the island.
Thank you, Mr. Catling. Senator Dueñas, please.
Thank you for the question. You know what's interesting when you look at bills that are introduced, they are either repealing, enacting, or adding to statute. So I believe it is the legislative process really that does this, because you would even do that by bill form. I think where we've really missed the boat on this is we need a more robust legal bureau within the legislature. That's one of the reasons why I'm for a part-time legislature. There's a difference between a part-time legislature and part-time senators. When you have a robust legal bureau and a legislature that's professionalized, like Hawaii and other jurisdictions, you have a lot more research. And a lot of bills are actually introduced for that very purpose, to amend laws, to make sure that that antiquated laws get removed from the books. But then also the legislative process, of course, of introducing bills is to enact, repeal, and also, add on to. So a robust legal bureau with more legal review, I think, is the answer to this question.
Thank you, Senator Dueñas. The next question will be asked by Mr. Monty McDowell.
Thank you, Peggy. We're about halfway through now, and I would just like to interject that it's a real privilege and honor for the Guam Association of Realtors to have all of the Republican candidates here today answering these questions. And I think all of us have learned a tremendous amount from the answers that you have provided. You're extremely intelligent people, and this is going to be very hard on us to determine, who deserves our support more than somebody else. This is going to be really tough because you're just a bunch of really good, intelligent, kind-hearted, want to do good for Guam group of individuals. And I thank you again for being here. My question, and I just have to say that I am a retired Navy officer, so it's near and dear, military buildup on Guam. Given that there is currently a significant military buildup on Guam, and that the U.S. Marine base in Okinawa is in the process of relocating to Guam, local legislative support of or opposition to these Department of Defense actions will determine the 37th Guam Legislature's general political posture vis-a-vis our military community. The membership of the Guam Association of Realtors is interested in your position on these current military activities. As a senatorial candidate, do you support the current military buildup and relocation of the U.S. Marine base from Okinawa to Guam? Please explain your choice.
Thank you for the question, and we'll address that to Ms. Sam Mabini-Yan.
I have always been a supporter of our military. I am actually married also to a retired disabled veteran. And no one can deny that Guam holds a very important role in homeland security. And that's one other reason is that we know that we have a very limited resource as a small island that we offer other than our human resources and our beautiful island, of course, and our economy, which supports our tourism industry. So one of the main reasons why I really support this is because it does offer economic opportunities, career opportunities. We know that within the next decade or two, we're going to have to really focus on building our maintenance careers. And I don't mean just janitors or housekeepers or whatnot, but I'm talking about managers who are going to upkeep our IT side of the house, our construction, our facilities, maintain the human resource management of this. This has a great opportunity for our people of Guam. And other than our tourism industry, this is an important economic resource support that our people need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. I'd like to ask the same question to Ms. Michelle Taitano.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Monty. And yes, I do support the military buildup. I have always supported the military buildup. And it has pros and cons. You'll hear it in the community, but in all, it's going to only better Guam and also increase our opportunities for work for our folks coming out of high school and graduating from college. And there's an opportunity to work on island and get some good income from that, because yes, the bases are going to need to be maintained. H-2B folks are going to be leaving after they've made the buildup, and we need to be able to support that. So if we have the military, that's going to help our economy, as it always has. The military has always been one of our pillars in our community for our economy. So yes, I support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Same question for Ms. Tyron.
Thank you so much. I'd like to also say that I'm from a military family. My great-grandfather was a U.S. Marine. My father, Army soldier. My husband, retired Air Force, and I have two sons also in the military, in the Air Force and in the Army. So, I absolutely support the military and I support the buildup. I also support the opportunity to engage with the military buildup. And in fact, in the 31st Guam legislature, some of my colleagues who were with me then will remember that we pressed to be included in the conversations that were happening with regard to the development. We made sure that the community was involved in the discussions and the planning so that we had a say. And so moving forward, I'd like to make sure that we continue with that. I mean, in full support of the military buildup, continue pressing that we have a say in what happens, and also ensuring that those opportunities that are coming up as far as jobs and opportunities are available to our people at the same time.
Thank you, Ms. Tyron. And lastly, I'd like to ask the same question to Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero.
As a military brat, I pretty much, Mana took basically all the words out of my mouth. I remember that when the 31st legislature stood up and supported the buildup, the senators of the 31st were very, very engaging with the military at that point in time. I remember the 31st had a number of forums at the legislature, and they not only included the senators, but they opened up the opportunities for business people to come in and sit down and meet with the militaries. With our tourism on the rocks, and I'm going to be on the rocks for the next 10 years, I mean, we're celebrating 200,000 this year when we used to get 200,000 a month. The military is going to be the best opportunity if we put the right policies in place to drive middle-class jobs into our community. But it's going to take leadership in the 37th Guam legislature to help create the kinds of policies and programs that will support the buildup.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leon Guerrero. The next question will be asked by Mr. Christopher Felix regarding political status.
Yes, hi. Thanks, Peggy. It's on political status. The top political status is a constant discussion and debate by our island community. For example, remain a U.S. territory, become a state, or seek independence. Holding a firm position on one of these above options would seem to influence your actions as a senator. So the question is, what political status option draws your support?
Thank you for the question, and we'll address that to Mr. Vincent Borja.
Hi, thank you for that question. If there was a plebiscite held today, I would support statehood. I think, as an Army veteran, the struggles we go through right now as an arm to Hawaii, I think, becoming statehood would give us a louder voice in Congress and in the Senate, and this will help with a lot of the benefits that we don't get because we're still a territory, and there's a lot of different things within a lot of the laws that prohibit us from getting those same benefits. But I think it's really important, especially for our veterans, that this would improve access and a lot more funding and oversight on the types of services that we get as veterans on Guam, and other benefits as well that exclude us. So I definitely support statehood, and that's my position on the political status for Guam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borja. Same question for Ms. Bistra Mendiola, please.
That's probably one of my favorite questions because I've been tracking it down since 2012, at least, online. Those are the availability videos, actually, but nobody discusses that there is this thing, option number 4, make your own deal. I learned this by attending a seminar in the UOG because I'm not a specialist on political status, but I always had a lot of questions because we only hear what we support, what type of status, but nobody is actually educating us. What is the next step? What happens if we go into, for example, independence? Are we ready to print our own money? Are we ready to establish our own banking system? Are we ready to establish our own mail service? Nobody is discussing those problems. So as of today, I believe that we are in a very good position to poise Guam as similar to the CNMI independence, semi-autonomous status, but yet we can negotiate a lot more presence in Congress. And because of our current geopolitical events that are happening in our backyard, I think we are in a very good position to obtain the best deal possible for Guam and her people. So I don't support any of these. I support number 4.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mendiola. Next individual will be Mr. Jesse Lujan. Mr. Jesse, yes, unmute yourself, Mr. Jesse.
Okay, how about now? Ready?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Actually, my choice, of course, has always been statehood. Guam, of course, could and should combine with the CNMI if they wish in order to become the 51st state. That, of course, can exercise more power over our destiny while under the protection and financial security available to a state. So again, I've always been for statehood of the 3 options. And again, I wouldn't want to be anything else other than a closer association with the United States.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lujan. Senator Tide, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question. It's the people of Guam who will determine our political status, not the legislature, not one senator. It will be a vote that is done. Everyone who is able to vote on the status will determine what status preferences is conveyed to Congress. I can't see us as a U.S. or the U.S. allowing Guam to become a state and realize there are many, there may be opportunities for our island to stay connected without giving up what we enjoy today. So if we commit to a true partnership with the United States rather than an unincorporated status that we have right now. So at this point, it's really not up to the legislature or any one senator. We all will go in and vote and decide what that status would be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Tadegui. Next question will be asked by Ms. Joanne Ige regarding, we're going into public and personal health and safety now.
Thank you, Peggy. Continuation of the governor's COVID-19 pandemic emergency powers. The governor declared a state of emergency to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic in the spring of 2020. It is now the fall of 2022, and the state of emergency is still in effect, but scheduled to expire November 5th. By law, the Guam legislature has the authority to terminate or to extend the governor's extensive emergency powers. The question is, discounting a year into the pandemic, which most people acknowledge as a public health emergency period, Are you in support of the governor's continuing extension of emergency powers into November 2022? And please explain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will direct the question to Mr. Ian Catling.
Hello. This is difficult because it's about life safety. And so I'm not here to question the governor's choice on this because she's a first responder. I took first responder class. I was a part of the fire academy myself. I understand the difficulty of having to make these difficult choices. It's really, is there a limit as to what we can do and how it is that we're doing? Where is the affront to the people at this very moment in time? I don't see a difference between the state of emergency now to November 5th at the very moment in time. It's something to reflect on. I know a lot of people have had issues with the way that things have gone down, but when it comes to being a first responder, it's all about life safety. And so even though we have our differences, and this is a difficult position for anybody to be in, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, especially our current governor, it's about protecting lives, saving lives. Our lives being saved right now, our people being protected right now. If that is the case, then it's okay. If it's feeling like as though this is turning into.
Thank you very much, Mr. Catling. We appreciate your feedback on that. We'll go next to Ms. Sam Mabini Young.
Absolutely not. I'm not in support of this continuation. You know, we've lived with public health challenges like tuberculosis. We all know what's required of our students and teachers. This goes on. I've known at least 2 people who had suffered through tuberculosis, which is a very terrible disease that can easily spread. We've learned how to live with it. We are in that condition. Guam is significantly behind in our economic recovery because of this. I have traveled to various states, from Florida to Texas to New Orleans and various places, and even to other stopping over at other foreign countries. And I've seen how they have been able to move forward. And it wasn't until I landed here in Guam that I actually caught COVID-19, even with all the restrictions. So we do need to open up our businesses. We need to continue moving forward, to live with this endemic and better prepare for maybe another pandemic in the future. But we need to move forward. And, you know, Guam has to follow suit with other states and other countries.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. We appreciate that. Senator Dueñas, please.
Thank you for the question. The continuation of this public health emergency after the first 8 months of this COVID-19 pandemic has been the most problematic, most costly, and most destructive policy this island has ever endured. The fact of the matter is, the problem here is we didn't even get to ask those questions. It took action by the legislature to be able to introduce a resolution to finally get our administration, our government, down to the legislature to explain why we're even in this public health emergency. The answers were lacking, and the obvious situation was, with the research that I and my colleagues did, was we could have gone forward and done a narrow emergency, keep our businesses open, keep our economy alive, keep our people working, keep real estate moving, and do the things we need to do. And that's the problem we have. We have no accountability. If there's, you know what the emergency is right now? Drugs, crime, schools falling down. That's the emergency. We are not in a COVID public health emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Dueñas. Next question will be asked by Mr. John Dueñas.
Thank you, Peggy. The question regards the, give me a second, the new public hospital. The governor has determined that we need to construct a new hospital and that the site will be at former Eagles football field in Manila along Route 15. Since the Guam legislature will eventually be involved in the development of a new hospital, your role as a senator will be to decide your position in determining the location and the funding of the new hospital. The question is, do you believe Guam needs a new hospital, a new public hospital? And if yes, where do you think it should be located? And how do you propose to fund the design and construction of the new facility?
Thank you very much for that question and would like to address that to Mr. Vincent Borja.
All right, thank you for that question. I think, in regards to healthcare on Guam and the hospital is we need to fix and maintain what already exists. Definitely, would we all prefer a nice hospital that has everything? Sure. But if we can't maintain what we have right now, there's it could be a long time before we get a new hospital. So we definitely need to focus on improving and fixing what we have, and then have a phase plan on how we transition to building a new hospital while trying to maintain what we have. I don't support it being in Manila. A lot of our doctors live, are established in Tamuning, where our hospital, all our hospitals have been in the last, since we've been in since hospitals have existed on Guam. So I definitely don't support building a new one. We need to fix what we have and keep it central to where it's at and where all our doctors and specialists are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borja. And same question for Ms. Mana Tyron, please.
I do support the building of a new hospital. We are in dire need of a new facility. 20, 30 years ago, when I was in the media, I was doing stories of a hospital falling apart. Dr. Vince Akimoto came back to Guam and he was hemming and hawing about a hospital facility that was falling apart. 30 years later, we're still talking about it. We absolutely need a new hospital. I may not agree with the placement of it, but man, if the concession has to be made, then the concession will be made. Ideally, I would prefer that we look at Oka Point because it was a property that was given to the government of Guam for the sole sake of building a new hospital or for housing a hospital. The Perez family gave that property over to the government of Guam. That would be my preferred opportunity or option, but absolutely support a new hospital. We talk about a medical malpractice. We're not giving our doctors and our medical facility the tools and the resources it needs to provide adequate health care for our people. So if we have an opportunity to build a new facility that can better serve our people.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tyron. Same question for Senator Taitigui, please.
Thank you so much. Guam needs a new public hospital facility, due to the high cost involved in building a new hospital. We should consider the old GMH site located in Hilton, Oka that Mana mentioned. Utilities and other infrastructure needs have already been carved out in this area and with low construction cost. As you know, this new hospital they're talking about is $1.1 billion, but the hospital itself is about $600 million, which is more affordable. The Manila area is still under DOD and they're planning for a defense system in that area. Also, the property should be given to the original owners if returned back from the federal government in the Manila area. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. Would like to ask the same question to Ms. Michelle Taitano.
Yes, Hafide, thank you. Well, I would like a new hospital, but reality speaks that that process is going to be really challenging. I disagree with the governor's moving it over to Manila, and there's a lot of infrastructure that'll be needed and to prep that facility over there. I reiterate that the land was donated over at Tamuning for the purpose of the hospital. I think visionaries had that. I think we should continue to support that, as well as I really believe that alternatively we can do an extreme makeover at the current hospital. And you all know I'm a realtor as well, and you all have seen transformed homes, and we can do the same thing with our hospital. We keep some of it going and some of it just shut down so we can fix and do an extreme makeover, upgrade it, and make it work. We've done this in the past with other industries, so we can do it with this hospital as well. And I'm open to other suggestions, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Taitano. Next question will be asked by Mr. Monty McDowell.
Thank you, Peggy. And I'd just like to say that, Peggy, you're doing a phenomenal job. You got great organizational skills. Thank you so much. I'd like to preface this. It has to do with drug abuse. And on a real world event that happened in my company, we need employees in the private sector. We need them badly. And one day interviewed 14 prospective, or my staff, 14 prospective employees, and 12 of them tested positive for illegal substance. Can't hire them. That's just a reality. Drug abuse is rampant on our island and is no doubt a cause of criminal activity, acts of violence against the public, homelessness, family violence, and gradual destruction of the family unit and businesses. As a senator, you will be in a powerful position to affect public policy change to prevent, or at a minimum, mitigate drug abuse and its impact on our community. As a legislator, what will you do to address the problem of drug abuse on our island? Please explain.
Thank you for the question, and we'll ask Senator Dueñas first.
Thank you for the question. You know, Monty, right now, I think the governor should declare a state of emergency with regard to public safety and the drug epidemic that exists on our island. Enough is enough. As a minority senator, we don't have the capability to push this. This is a chief executive decision. You know, I hear these things about task force, supposedly. I heard the governor in the prior forum, in the last forum that she ran in, say, we don't need more task forces. Yes, we do need more task forces. And the bottom line is, when we had this issue with the invasion coming into our island by foreign nationals on boats, what did we do? We put a task force together. First, we said we can't do anything about it. Then we put a task force together, and what? We're solving the problem now. We're catching them. Boats aren't flying into the shores. The drug situation is the same. We need to get this under control right now. As a senator in the next legislature, I will introduce legislation that will codify the fact that when certain conditions exist, it makes sure that we kick in an operation that creates not only the task force, but creates the ability to pull all law enforcement together to battle and take back.
Thank you very much, Senator Dueñas. We appreciate that. Next individual will be Mr. Jesse Lujan. Mr. Jesse Lujan, we ask you to unmute yourself once more, please.
Okay,
Thank
sorry about that.
You're ready.
Okay, as a senator, I would ensure that our local law enforcement and customs agency have the resources and additional funding to specifically target the importation and dealing, of course, with the distribution of crystal meth. I want to also ensure that enough personnel and staff are specifically assigned and hired and trained to find and crack down on the dealers, and to do all they can to stop the importation of these drugs into our ports. We need a dedicated law enforcement task force or a division to fight crystal meth and the importation and distribution. And but most importantly, you know, in the legislative side, the legislative oversight plays a very important role in holding GPD, Customs, and Port Authority police accountable to what is going on. So that's the power of the legislature. The power of the legislature is the oversight over these committees, and to date, it hasn't happened.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lujan. Ms. Sam Mabini Young, please.
So it's just recently that I heard that the Uniform Crime Report for Guam was just released. I believe that's 2 years. It's a 2019 report, and that should be produced annually, because our authorities, our public safety organizations, as well as the federal partners like the FBI or whatnot, DEA, all need that kind of information to provide the kind of support or financial support or equipment, maybe that could be funded to combat the conditions that we're experiencing right now with the infiltration of drugs. Yes, we do need an aggressive campaign. And so as a senator, I would be expecting that our administration, just like Senator Dueñas had pointed out, our governor to take the lead and to work with our agencies and provide oversight to make sure that they work together. We need to also fund our public safety department so that they can do their job. We need to walk the talk.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young. And would like to ask the same question to Mr. Thomas Fisher, please.
Thank you again for the opportunity to address you. One of the very first things Governor Leon Guerrero did was dismantle the Mandania drug force. It was I know personally that this was a very successful undertaking by the government of Guam, by the Guam Police Department. that was making serious, real headway against this catastrophe on island. I agree with Senator Duenas. It is an emergency. It's an absolute emergency. This drug is we've introduced, and others have introduced, a cancer into our body. It has to be taken care of. I don't understand why that drug force was dismantled. I would want another drug task force set up. I'm sorry?
15 seconds, sir.
Oh, I'd like that thing set up. And one of the things, we need a vigorous attorney general's office. You know, the feds won't even deal with those people over there. And that is a catastrophe as well. We need a vigorous prosecution of drug offenses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas Fisher. We have our next question by Mr. Christopher Felix.
Sorry, it took me a while to unmute. This is about the Second Amendment. Home invasion and predatorial acts of violence against the community can succeed only if homeowners and individuals are defenseless. The Second Amendment of our US Constitution gives the right to our people to keep and bear arms. Although Guam law has strict licensing requirements governing the exercise of this right, many of our citizens, having met those requirements, do own and bear firearms. The question is, do you support the right of a Guam citizen to protect one's home and property with a firearm?
Thank you very much for that question. Would like to address that to Senator Tide.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, Chris. Thank you for the question. I support a family's right to defend themselves against any intruder. Criminals must know the serious consequences of invading a family's home, and that placing a family, especially children, in harm's way gives that family a reason to protect their home and property at all costs. So I do support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tide. Mr. Leon Guerrero, Joaquin Leon Guerrero, please.
I am a recent convert. I, up until recently, was against proliferation of firearms in our community. But having walked through our villages in the campaign effort and seeing that like 90% of the homes have been turned into armed fortresses or prisons because our criminals walk the streets with impunity. Our Attorney General doesn't seem interested in defending the rights of our citizens, so it's up to us to defend our rights ourselves. And that is going to require that we have the ability, for those of us who want to, have firearms. And when you consider the fact that people that I would have sworn years ago would never have guns are buying guns, that's how serious the crime problem here is on this island. And so I unequivocally support the right for our residents to bear arms.
Thank you, Mr. Leon Guerrero. Ms. Mana Tyron, please.
Yes, I absolutely support an individual's right to bear arms. It's now more than ever, it's necessary that individuals be given an opportunity to protect themselves. There are so many home invasions and burglaries and crimes of violence happening. I think it's imperative that people do everything possible to defend themselves, defend their property, and defend their families. So yes, I do support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyron. Ms. Bistra Mendiola, please.
No surprise here. I absolutely agree with enforcing our Second Amendment rights, especially nowadays when, as all of my previous panelists said, excuse me, there are criminals out there that just really walk the streets with impunity. Me as a business owner, I was broken into a couple of times, and I have taken the necessary steps to protect not only my business, but also my employees. So if I could have someone out there, not only in my home, but also in my business, to have a weapon on hand and ward off some criminals, absolutely. This Second Amendment has been given to us, and we owe it
Thank you,
to
ma'am.
ourselves to use it.
Thank you very much. I'd like to also ask the same question to Mr. Ian Catling.
In short, yes, I am completely in support of the right to bear arms, especially when it comes to protection of the home. The root of the problem, though, is still not being addressed, and that is the level of violent crimes that are occurring on island as of right now. It's increasing, so we're feeling as though we need to. Now, am I a gun owner? No. They don't do guns in ninja school, so I never learned how to use a gun. But that's not going to stop me or make me stop anybody else from being able to protect themselves. The issue that we're having here is the level of crime that's increasing. And that level of crime that's increasing is directly related to the state of our economy. When the economy is in shambles, the rate of crime, the rate of drug use goes up.
15
Look at the
seconds.
city of Detroit. Right? So how do we lower it? That's my main concern, is how do we lower that crime rate? How do we increase our economic power and influence?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Catling. And Senator Chris Dueñas, please.
Yes, no question. I support the right to bear arms, particularly as many of my colleagues have mentioned today. Great responses, by the way. Excellent team here. The bottom line is particularly in your home. Your home is your castle. You have the right to protect your family. You have the right to protect everything that is in your home that you've worked hard for. So most definitely. But I do agree too that the real issue is what I've talked about earlier. We have to get control of this drug problem. We have to get control of this crime problem. We've given out a lot of money as a government. There have been people that have received assistance. But the bottom line is that we need to get really serious about what we're doing in the community, and that will bring the crime problem down. We also need to make sure that treatment is available. We need to make sure that when folks do get arrested, and do enter the system, that we capture that situation right there. Monty, I know I'm talking to you because you are a great mentor for redemption and rehabilitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to defer to our subcommittee chairman, Mr. John Dueñas.
Peggy, are there any questions from our membership?
We have one question.
And would that be?
The question is, do you agree with the current rental rates imposed on local families, to which many believe is due to military housing allowance?
That is a question, Peggy. You can direct that to the candidate.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to ask Senator Tide for that.
Thank you for that question to your member. Absolutely. In fact, I spoke about this on KUAM when I had an interview, that the reason why the rate is so high right now in Guam is because of the military providing a stipend for their members at such a high rate. Once upon a time, you can get a 2-bedroom apartment for $900. Now it's increased where 2 bedrooms go for $2,200 on the military side. What I plan on doing is providing subsidies for landlords to give them to lower the amount of their rentals to local individuals on the island, so they can have an abatement of tax abatement toward their cost, and in the meantime provide a lower rental for our local community only. So that's an idea that we're pushing around right now, and we're hoping that we can get enough support in the legislature to provide that.
Thank you very much, Senator Titlegy. I'd like to ask the same question to Ms. Mana Tyron.
Thank you. The rental rates, at least as far as I'm concerned, we own a rental property and we set our rate based on the mortgage rate. So additionally, I also want to point out it costs a lot when you have a rental property. Whenever you have a tenant that vacates, it costs an arm and a leg to renovate and repair and upgrade the property. So a lot of those costs are factored into the amount that we charge. Of course, we could increase based on and compete with what the military, some of the newer homes are charging. It surprises me to see how much a 4-bedroom or even a 3-bedroom unit with 2 bathrooms is costing around upwards of $4,000. Our rent is nowhere near that. But I will have to say that the cost, the rate that we set is based on the mortgage more so, and the cost of repair and renovation and upkeep of the property, less so on comparing to the military rental costs.
Thank you, Ms. Tyron. I'd like to ask the same question to Mr. Vincent Borja.
Hi, thank you for that question. Do I, hold on, sorry. Agreeing with the rental rates? I mean, of course not, but I think, it's obviously driven by the market and the inventory and supply and demand. So, I mean, that's the bigger issue and what we need to address so that it addresses the rates. And so I don't agree with it, but I think that we can look at, like some of the previous speakers have stated, look at other ways to incentivize landlords to provide, affordable housing or affordable rentals for the community. So definitely looking at how we can do that as a legislature, because we definitely can't, the military ain't going anywhere for a while, and that's a reality we have to accept. But definitely look at how we can provide low cost, affordable rentals and affordable homes for the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent Borja. We have one more question from the audience. Would you support laws regarding landlords to report rental payments to the credit bureau for renters or tenants to improve their credit scores in the hope to buy property? I'd like to address that question to Senator Dueñas.
Yeah, that's novel to me. It sounds like it would make sense. I mean, if you are a responsible individual that's been renting, particularly if you're looking at improving your credit score because you're going for a mortgage, I think a banking institution, financial institutions would look at your performance in terms of as a renter as being a reliable individual, or maybe unreliable, hopefully not, in terms of being able to securitize financing for a property. Of course, all the factors would be built in, but it's interesting. It's new to me in terms of the presentation, but on its face, it sounds reasonable. It sounds like it makes sense. If you've been renting for 4 or 5 years and you've always been on time with your rent, I think a financial institution would take that into consideration and say, hey, that adds and enhances your credit score. I would think a responsible individual with their rent also would have a good credit score. So it sounds like just an addition. So I'm open to it.
Thank you very much. Senator Dueñas would like to ask the same question to Ms. Michelle Titano.
Peggy, would you repeat that question again? Seems like there's like a whole bunch of things going on in there.
Would you support laws regarding landlords to report rental payments to the credit bureau for renters or tenants to improve their credit scores in the hopes to buy a property?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm like Senator Chris. I would be open to it. It just sounds a little bit complex. Something else another thing a landlord would have to do that may be a little bit, again, logistically challenging. So we would have to explore it. I'm open to exploring it and seeing what other pros and cons may occur should we decide to do that and pursue that. But yes, I'm open. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Titano. Same question to Ms. Bistra Mendiola, please.
Hi, that is not a news to me. I believe there are quite a few states out there that practice that, and you know, it could work both ways, either positive or negative for whoever is paying the rent. But in general, what I've noticed, the young generation is the one that's having trouble with obtaining a good credit history, and if that can help them to you know, build that credit, why not? Absolutely. Yes, but I agree with Michelle. It would be a bit challenging on the logistical side. How do we convince what is the benefit for the landlord that, you know, they are not going to just do it out of their, you know, good heart. So let's just think about how to entice both sides to work together and, you know, solve that problem.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mendiola. We have reached our end of our live virtual town hall today. I would like to defer to Mr. John Duenas or Mr. Monty McDowell for any remarks before we ask all our candidates to have a minute of their closing remarks.
Well, I just want to thank all the candidates for appearing today. It appears that the Republicans showed up in pretty good numbers. No, I think you guys have had a lot of really terrific responses, and some other forum I'd like to talk to each of you individually. But for now, great job. I think we can go to the closing remarks, unless Monty, unless you have something.
Ditto with what John said. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Would like to start for that 1 minute closing remark. Starting with Ms. Sam Mabini Young.
Thank you. My name again is Shirley Sam Mabini Young, and it's been a pleasure sharing my insights and hearing the insights of my potential colleagues. And I hope we get a Republican majority. I'd like to get into the legislature again to focus on workforce development, helping our realtors and our landlords and our businesses that support this industry to prepare our workforce, to prepare future generation of realtors or supporting careers there. I would also like to again work on supporting our agencies to be a lot more efficient and effective, and start adopting aspects of a part-time legislature. And finally, let's have an aggressive campaign against the infiltration of drug abuse, and also to help our families and help our community get affordable homes, affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Young, number 11 in the Republican side. Ms. Mana Tyrone, please.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation today, and I will take you up on that offer if you do want to meet face to face so that I could learn more about the industry, the real estate industry. It's an important and integral part of economic development, and I'd like to know everything that I could possibly know and how I can help your industry grow and sustain itself as we move forward. Again, thank you for the opportunity. If you could give me one of your votes, I'm number 12 on the Republican side. I'm Marianne Monasilva Tyron. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyrone. Mr. Jesse Lujan. Please don't forget to unmute.
Unmute, yes.
We will. We will return to you, Mr. Jesse Lujan. Mr. Joaquin Leon Guerrero, please.
In economics, they always say land is the basis of all wealth, and that's absolutely true. You look at satellite photos of Guam from outer space, you see about 75% of our land is underdeveloped. You look at a similar picture of Singapore, you see about 75% of their land is developed. And that is where the opportunity for the future of our island lies. Smart land use policies, because that's the biggest asset we have here on Guam, is our location and the large amounts of undeveloped land we have. And you're looking at the team right here of Republican candidates that will make that smart development possible, should we be fortunate enough to get a majority in the legislature. I'm Ken Leon Guerrero, number 14 on the Republican side. I'd love to be part of that majority with your help.
Thank you, Mr. Leon Guerrero. Mr. Ian Dale Catling.
For day, Ian Dale Catling, number 5 on the Republican side. So real quick, the University of Pittsburgh sent students over here to do an audit assessment of our permitting process. If you go to Guampedia's website, you'll be able to listen to those presentations. Those students did a phenomenal job of sizing up our permitting process and figuring out ways to streamline it and make it better. Please watch those presentations and then email me, catlingforsenator@gmail.com, and we can discuss these improvements that the students from University of Pittsburgh have made on our system. A lot of what it is that we're dealing with can be remedied, can be solved. It is now that time, and I am your candidate to do that. Number 5, Republican side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Catling. We will go next to Ms. Michelle Titano.
Hey, Hafaday, Michelle Hope Titan, I'm number 2 on the Republican ballot. Thank you so much for GAR, Peggy and GAR leadership to, again, put forth this town hall for the legislatures. And, you know, I do have that background. I am a realtor. I've been in property management, sales, of course. And I've also been through that permitting process. I've helped with Guam Housing Corporation to know how to work with the government to try to make it streamlined, trying to have affordable housing for our folks who need that. And then also our processes now really need to be tightened up. And I'm so willing to work with you guys as colleagues in our real estate industry, but at the same time to just improve. We need just to improve and work our forces together so that Guam can have better housing opportunities, not just for us, but our children. That's why we're doing this, right? I'm Michelle Hope Titano, number 2 on the Republican ballot. Please, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Titano. Ms. Bistra Mandiola, please.
Thank you again for hosting us here. My name is Bistra Mendiola. I'm number 13 on the Republican side of the ballot. My major pillars of my platform do concern the economic development and the cost of living, which also encompasses the housing. As a former realtor, I was a realtor for about 2 years, about 15 years ago. I completely understand the hurdles, and I can compare the situation back then and today. And I will be very, very committed to providing that next step to the American dream to everyone out there that wants to own a home and leave a legacy to their children. So with that, I wish to close. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling very well to speak more, but I'm looking forward to receiving any comments from you on my social media pages, Bistra for Guam, Bistra for Guam on Facebook, and my website, bistraforguam.com. Thank you so much again. And
thank you very much, Ms. Mendiola. We have Mr. Vincent Borja.
Thank you to GAR for hosting this event. And thanks to the participants who have taken the time to be here today and to listen to the different positions we have on different things that affect our families, our businesses, and our community. You know, this November, we have an opportunity to change course, to give our island, our children, and our community some hope. And the message from our community and our stakeholders has been very clear. Our government needs to do better at addressing crime, the rising cost of living, and less red tape in fostering economic growth. My name is Vince Borja. I'm number 3. I hear you and I want to work for you, and I'm asking for your support and one of your votes on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borja. Mr. Thomas Fisher.
Thank you. I'm number 9 on the ballot, Thomas Fisher. I'm a proponent and a believer in public service. When I do trials, you know, you bring in 100 people, you have to pick a jury. People get bummed because they're on jury duty, and you have to deal with that. And, you know, one of the things I often say, well, probably always say to a jury is, you know, citizenship requires certain sacrifices by the citizens. You need to pay your taxes. If the military calls you or your country calls you for service, you need to go. If you get called to jury duty, you need to go. my life has consisted, half making payroll and the other half has been public service. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I was a Navy officer with the Judge Advocate General Corps. I was an attorney general here and a classroom teacher as well, even in the CNMI. So I have, my family does too, and everybody in this panel has a strong tradition of public service. I would like the opportunity to contribute in the legislature. I have some ideas, roll back the BPT.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. We'll go back to Mr. Jesse Lujan. All right, let's try your mute button, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, yes, we face many challenges, but if we come together and put aside our politics of the past, we, the people of Guam, can not only survive, but we can thrive. There are a few of us that are doing very well, but most of us are generally struggling, getting by with the skin of their teeth. We must all come together, of course, and work together for a better Guam. And I'm ready. And I humbly ask for your vote on the 8th of November. I'm Jesse Anderson Lujan, number 7, the Republican side of the ballot. And Monte, when we were in the 27th Guam legislature, we fought very hard. We rolled back the GRT that the Democrats put in place, and we were able to get majority in the 28th and 29th Guam legislature. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lujan. Senator Tello Titagui, please.
Thank you so much, Peggy, and thank you to Gar, Elizabeth, John, Monty, Carl, Felix, and Joanne for always being a part of the community and making Guam a better place to live. I greatly appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of any forum that you put together. I hope that I was able to answer some of the questions that you provided. I'm sure there's more, so always available. As you know, when you call, I do answer. In fact, this year, 3 bills have already been introduced because of the call of Gar to my office, and I've advocated for it introduced. So I'm number 4 on the ballot. My name is Tello Titagui. Tell it to Tello and expect results. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator Tello Titagui, and Senator Chris Dueñas.
Thank you very much to Gar. One of the things in participating in these forums over the years and running for office, I've always loved this forum. You could see by the questions that you asked today, it's not about selfishness. It's not about the Guam Realtors Association. Most of your questions actually deal with the community at large, and I appreciate that. I hope I've been able to provide answers that are satisfactory and hope to gain your support and your vote. As a minority leader, I gotta close by saying Viva Republican, and I hope we get the majority because it's been very difficult to get reasonable policies passed in this legislature. Please give every single one of these candidates a close look and an opportunity to make that change. I agree with Tom. Career public service is not the right thing to do. I had a hard time making a decision to run in this term. Hopefully, if successful in the next term, I believe it will be my last, but I hope it will be my best because I'll put my best foot forward and make sure that I always do what I started when I first ran for public office. Thank
you very much, Senator. We appreciate your closing remarks to everybody. Thank you very much. And I will defer to our president, Liz Dueñas, for her closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone. As we had said earlier, I'm pleased that the Republican group came out in force. We're still missing a number of your colleagues who were running for office. But again, the Guam Association of Realtors were out looking in the best interest of our community. And there are issues that have cropped up, and some of you may have assisted us in the process. We will continue to work with you once you get in, because there's still many issues that need to be cleaned up to benefit our community. Again, Sidus Masi, let your colleagues know that who did not show, they lost an opportunity to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.